UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
To all listening to this happy podcast, this is Mickey's Marvels on the United Federation of Podcasts.
You can contact the network at contact@UFP Earth, on Twitter at UFP Earth, and on Facebook.
I'm your host, Magic. Joining me, as always, is my good friend, Tribs. Tribs, how are you doing?
Man, stuck inside these four walls, driving myself crazy. I think I've grown a beard when I shaved 2 days ago. I have no clue what's going on in the outside world, and I think with us doing what we're doing today, this is the best of social distancing we can do. There's no further apart unless you're in the UK and we're broadcasting to each other than to be 3,000 miles apart, and I think I'm safe from you. Not that you are, that you have the virus.
Yes, I agree. I think we are doing a very good job of social distancing, and like you said, we are socially talking, but at a very great distance, like tin cups with a rope.
That's right. So here's the thing: we here at Mickey's Marvels understand that it is trying and grim times for us all. Please, listeners, know that you are not alone in this. Please feel free to reach out to us, reach out to friends, to our listeners, reach out to other people. We are one big happy family, just as Disney as to family, as us, as your fellow podcasters for this show are your family as well. So we encourage you to reach out and talk to us. We'll carry on conversations. With that, I would like to just add one thing. Fear has two meanings. Forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And I'd like to choose the latter, to believe. Educate, stay motivated, stay mindful, stay positive, and we will get through this by leaning on each other.
Yeah, I agree with all of Chris's sentiments. If you need someone to BS with, hit us up on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you need to. Reach out to us. Hit up the page, hit up the episodes. So we're going to try and give you some content to at least listen to and take your mind off things for maybe an hour, And I know I like to do that when things get a little hectic. I'll just throw on my favorite podcast and just think about that for a little bit. And apparently we're never going to talk again.
I gave some space for the lead in.
Get your popcorn, get your drink. The movie's about to start.
Okay, so why are we recording today? We're recording today to start our one of many movies in a series that I like to call #Deep Cut Disney. So with that, we've decided to do a little movie called Big Hero 6. Big Hero 6 was produced and marketed in 2014. And it was to limited markets. From what I know, it made money, but Frozen, I believe the movie Frozen came into a close second, if not tied it for the money that it made. This movie really comes at a time right now for us to watch it where they talk AI and computers. That is something of today's age. To look at it, take a movie like iRobot, which was made in 2012-ish, way before its time now, where now AI, everybody's building robots. There's AIs, there's robots doing pretty much almost anything now. And this movie comes at a time where we're watching it where we're actually seeing what we're looking at, and we're also predicting what's going to be the future thereof. Magic, what are your thoughts?
On Big Hero 6, this is one of my favorite movies, and it did get very little play. I enjoyed it greatly, but just real quick, The budget for this movie was $165 million. The budget for Frozen was $150 million. However, the box office for Big Hero 6 was $657.8 million. That's a good number up. But Frozen was $1.280 billion. So Frozen killed it. Frozen was also a year earlier. But, no, about Big Hero 6. Love the movie. Love the animation. I love anything that's Japanese anime style, and that's definitely what this comic, cartoon was going for. It was going for a more of a manga style of artwork and kind of storytelling device. But more importantly, I love the message this movie sends overall. The idea of honoring a lost one, and sometimes we fall off the path, but we can get back on it, and that's really what this movie tells me. That's the story it gives me, and I think it's by far one of the most well thought out movies. It did spin off a cartoon that I don't think did all that great. I have met Baymax at Disney World, and that was really cool, but he doesn't get as much play as I think he should. There's also a little known cameo by Stan Lee, which we'll talk about towards the end of this.
Yeah, I like the story of falling off a path because of someone who's your mentor or someone who means a lot to you has put you on it, and in death you kind of fall off the track because you kind of think that it was his dream and you would like to follow his dream with him backing you, but you fall off the path a little bit. But there's a little resurgence, and we'll talk about it through the movie of what's good, doing for the good of people and not just doing for yourself. So selfishness in a way is evil, and that's another topic of the movie as well.
Yeah, and we actually have two stories going on of loss in this movie, which is interesting because you don't always see that. But our hero, he loses his brother early on in the movie in a fire where there's a massive explosion, knocks him down because he was running in to go save his mentor. And then you find out the bad guy, who will leave names for later, the bad guy, he actually lost his daughter in an experiment and blames another person in the movie for it, which is why he is, in fact, being a supervillain at this point, because he wants revenge for his daughter's death. And in both scenarios, they come together at the same moment where they both end up doing good, or they end up doing good to kind of settle both problems. And the problem I'm talking about is that Hero wants to kill the villain because the villain killed his brother. Mm-hmm. Now, Hero can't see past his own rage at the moment, but his friends keep trying to stop him, and eventually he realizes this isn't what Tadashi would have wanted. That Tadashi always wanted to help people. What I found really interesting in this is, while he looked up to Tadashi, Tadashi was doing everything because he looked up to Hero as well, his younger brother. He was doing it to make his younger brother proud. On top of all this, you also find out early in the movie that Tadashi and Hero live with their aunt because their parents were already dead. So there's a lot of death in this movie, actually. It's not, it's a big part of the story, but you don't think of death when you think of Big Hero 6, but there's actually a ton of it in this movie.
It's almost, and I thought I read somewhere that this is Marvel comic-like. So in Marvel Comics, specifically Spider-Man, for an example, there is death, and the superhero becomes the superhero because of the mentor's words of wisdom. In this case, in Spider-Man's case, it's Uncle Ben, right? The saying that's always used in every Spider-Man movie, which I can't think of at the moment. However,
with great power comes great responsibility.
That is correct. So that's always stuck through Spider-Man's mind, right? And in this case, in Big Hero 6, Tadashi's willingness to help people is incumbent on our hero, to always want to help people, where in the beginning, it wasn't really about that, right? in the beginning, he graduated high school and he wasn't going to go to college. So he became, what's now illegal, but he became a bot fighter, which I thought it was great. That first scene was like David and Goliath.
Well, even before that, when they first show the bots, they look like they're these massive giant robots fighting. And then you realize they're kind of toys.
Right. You know, you look at it and these, especially Heroes, when Heroes comes out and you see the other guys, although they're tiny, one's towering over the other. And, Hero pulls out the Contra cheat code, if you will, spins the different color face around and ends up winning the match, against Goliath. And I'll call him Goliath, but against Goliath. But, Tadashi is trying to be the parent that Hero never knew. He knew that the parents had died when he was 3. So Tadashi had a lot of growing up to do himself to be Hero's mentor. And you're right, there is some things that Tadashi admires about Hero, being young, being brash, right? But there is the care that he also has to give and be that role model for him.
That's an interesting comparison you made, actually, because I didn't think of Spider-Man watching this yet. Spider-Man clearly loses his parents. Nobody ever talks about that because he was raised by his uncle and his aunt, right? And then his uncle dies, which would be akin to Tadashi now, because the uncle's missing, so we don't know. Maybe the aunt just never got married in Big Hero 6, and that's why she doesn't, there's no uncle. But it's very close. Also, and I don't think I ever realized this before, I did research for this, but Big Hero 6 is, the movie itself is just a movie made by Disney, right? It doesn't have any technical ties to Marvel. However, if you look a little deeper, it actually is based on the heroes of a book called Big Hero 6, which was by Man of Action, which was American Comics, which was owned by Marvel. And they were used in a few issues of, like they did one Sunfire and Big Hero 6. And they also appeared in a television series based on the film, which was called Big Hero 6, the series. And they had characters that also appeared in the video game Kingdom Hearts 3. But all that came after. Before, they did have a Big Hero 6 in the Marvel Universe. And these characters are loosely based on that. They didn't have a Baymax, but they did have like a lizard guy and a samurai guy and stuff like that. But so while it's loosely based on this, it's not really the same thing. They did have a hero, and they did have a Honey Lemon and a Go-Go. Oh, they did have a Baymax. I'm lying. I'm sorry. They had a Baymax, but Baymax was the lizard guy in this one. They had a Wasabi no Ginger. He was the samurai, which, if you look, Wasabi's the guy who gets the swords, the laser swords on his arms. There's, in fact, a Fred who becomes Fredzilla. So while these characters are loosely based on these characters, they are a completely different version of Big Hero 6. And I know that it originally premiered in Tokyo at the International Film Festival and then came to America a couple weeks later. But I thought it was very interesting how they did it. I thought it was really awesome because they made this comic that was kind of written more for an older teen crowd. They moved it down a little bit, but so that younger kids would enjoy the animation of it, but adults would understand the story of it. And you would have all of this culminate in this great movie that I definitely thought should have done better than it did, and should get more play at the parks than it does, but it doesn't. Back to your point, because I've gone off on a massive tangent here. Even though it's not a Marvel movie, we do, like I said, we do get a Stan Lee scene at the end of this movie, which is cool because he was always in the Marvel movies. But I guess because it's animation, they decided to keep it separate from Marvel. At this point, they did own Marvel, so they had the ability to do whatever they wanted with that. And so I think this whole redemption story, and that's what it really is, right? This becomes a redemption story for Tadashi at first. And Tadashi believes in helping people, but at some point, one microbot. So Big